how to remove a carburetor on a WLA. You need a 9/16 spanner for taking off your fuel lines and your fuel filter. You want a 5/8 spanner to hold the brass that goes into the carburetor bowl whilst you loosen off with your 9/16 spanner. An inch spanner for the big nut on the bottom of the bowl. Small screwdriver for undoing your throttle cable, and a large screwdriver, flat screwdriver, for taking the 3 bolts off the inlet manifold. And that's all you need. Well, obviously I've got the petrol tank off, yeah?
Yep.
Gear shift cable rod is normally about there. So what you want to do is take 1/2 inch nut off of there on the back side of it, yeah? Pull that out your gear shifter lever, which is on the side of the tank, and just let that drop down out the way, because trying to get the carburetor off when that's there, it just gets in the way. You can do it, but it's a fiddly pain in the bum. Okay, the next thing you want to do is take your fuel line off, 9/16. Obviously that screws up into the tank. Don't try and undo one end and bend it out the way. You can do that, but you'll end up cracking the pipe if you keep, you know, if you have to work on it a lot. So undo them both. Undo it off the tank there. So loosen that, and if you undo them both, the fuel line will come off easily. But if you try and take one end off and then bend it out the way, you end up damaging the flow of the pipe. So you want that to go back roughly where it was, you know?
Yeah.
So take that off both ends, undo both ends, and then the pipe will just come out instead of trying to bend it out the way or anything, yeah? Right, what I normally do then, you've got a 9/16 bolt under here,
yeah,
not done up, to your carb support bracket there. So undo that one, take him out of the way. So you've got that bracket, it shouldn't have that in there at all. Okay, should have a spring washer underneath and the 9/16 nut. Don't worry if when that's on there it isn't actually touching the engine. What it's for is if those big nipple glands there, this one here,
yeah,
and that one there, in the manuals and everything they call them a nipple, that's your inlet manifold. So if the nipples come undone at all, very slightly, all that bracket is for is to stop that just falling all the way down. It'll just save it. It's probably they found they had trouble with it or something. It's a fail safe to get you home.
yeah.
Next thing I do is loosen the filter off. So your fuel comes in there, runs through, down through a gauze inside, and then back up through the hole into the float bowl. So that's 5/8, that one. So just hold the bottom of that, 9/16 again, and just crack it loose. You can take it off now if you want to on that, it doesn't make any difference. But it's see how thin that is there?
Yeah.
If you're trying to do that on a bench, trying to hold the carburetor and stuff, you can end up breaking them. So just crack it off on the bike, it's a lot easier, yeah? And that's your filter off. Again, similarly, same thing. The big nut that holds your float bowl on, I tend to crack that on the bike. It's easier than trying to hold it all on the bench, yeah?
Yeah.
Doesn't have to come off. Can take it off now, but generally all of this gets in the way and you can end up bending the needles inside. So leave that on there, then it'll drip its fuel out. Just loosen that off and let all the fuel come out. Okay, so that's that side of the carb. You can take this off if you want to. That's just your carb elbow. Whee! I've cracked it off on the main nut and let all the fuel come out. That is what that screw there is for. You should loosen that and let the float bowl drain out through that. But the chances of that actually ever coming undone, or without completely stripping the thread out of it, so a word of caution, personally I've done a lot of them. If yours is free, by all means use it. Don't touch that, leave it alone.
Okay.
Because the chances are it'll just bugger the thread up, because it's brass in alley, it'll just chew the aluminium out. You can take the float bowl off now if you want to, but like I said, with all the cables and stuff, you're better off just taking the carb off as a lump. Okay, your next thing is just loosen off your throttle cable there on the top. Don't worry about trying to get the cable all the way out at the moment, just as long as it's free. So that's 3 on the cable, yeah? And you've got 3 screws. 1 at the top there, and 2 at the bottom. These are never very tight. Depending on how many gaskets you've got behind the carb, yeah, they're completely wrong. There should be a short one that goes in the top and 2 longer ones that go in the bottom. Because if you look through there, if the screw you put in there is too long, it'll push against the bush that holds the shaft and it'll just jam it up. You'll have 2 long, 1 short. Make sure the short goes in the top, because once you've pressed that bush in against the shaft, it's knackered. You've got to take it out unless you can ream it. Okay, right, and then your 2 bottom screws. 1 out, take him out all the way, leaving 1 screw in. You've got your last screw in. What I do is lean over, undo him, pull it that way so the cable comes out. That's your carb off.